She moved quietly across the hangar floor, the smell of fuel, metal, and lubricants hanging heavy in the air. The Apache gunship towered over her, its rotors still, its body streaked with dust from its last mission. Corporal Alina Reyes kept her head down as she hauled the cleaning kit across the concrete, setting it carefully beneath the 30mm chain gun mounted under the nose. To anyone watching, she was just another maintenance tech, one of dozens assigned to keep the attack helicopters ready for their next sortie. She liked it that way. Her hands were already dirty with grease when she removed the covers and began disassembling the weapon. Each motion was precise, practiced, and methodical. The chain gun had fired nearly 200 rounds on its last mission. Heat stress, carbon buildup, and vibration wore it down faster than most people realized. If it jammed in combat, the consequences could be fatal for the crew. Reyes knew the weapon like a living thing, the way it breathed, the way it rattled under stress, the feel of its tolerances. She worked in silence, ignoring the hum of generators and the distant shouts of mechanics working on other aircraft. The pilot came in 20 minutes later, helmet tucked under his arm, still in his flight suit. Captain Captain Hale was a decorated Apache commander, the kind of man who carried himself with casual authority. Everyone in the hangar noticed when he walked by, though few dared to meet his eyes. He was the sort who demanded excellence without needing to say much. Reyes didn't look up. "You've got the short straw, huh?" Hale's voice was light, almost teasing. "That thing's a mess after yesterday's run. Probably burned your whole afternoon." She didn't answer right away. She ran a patch through the barrel, inspecting the residue before discarding it. Only then did she glance up briefly. "Just doing the job, sir." Her tone was clipped, almost too flat. Hale frowned but let it slide. He stepped closer, watching her work. There was something unusual about the way she handled the weapon. Quick, efficient, almost too skilled. Maintenance techs were good, sure, but they weren't normally this fluent with weapons systems. Hale had served long enough to recognize soldiers who carried themselves differently. This one did. It was when she leaned forward to adjust the feeder assembly that he saw it. The patch on her sleeve. It wasn't regulation for her role. Most techs had the standard support insignia. Hers was something else, a subdued, almost worn emblem stitched near the shoulder. Hale froze, his breath catching for half a second. The patch was black and gray, shaped like a dagger with wings outstretched. Above it, a single lightning bolt slashed across. He knew it instantly. Everyone in his line of work did. It was the mark of a classified unit a group whispered about even among special operations circles. They weren't supposed to exist on paper, and the few who bore that insignia never advertised it. "What's that patch doing on your uniform?" Hale asked quietly, all trace of humor gone. Reyes paused, her gloved hands still on the weapon. She didn't look at him right away. When she finally did, her eyes were steady, unblinking. "You weren't supposed to notice." Hale's stomach tightened. "That you need a broken bar." He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "They don't just hand it out." Reyes went back to cleaning as if he hadn't spoken. "I'm here as a technician, Captain. That's all you need to know." But Hale couldn't let it go. He'd flown countless missions, lost friends, and buried soldiers. He had heard rumors of operators ghosts, some called Thama, who were inserted into conflicts when everything else failed. If she was one of them, what the hell was she doing cleaning guns in a hangar? "Who are you?" Hale pressed, his voice lower now, more personal. She met his gaze this time, and for a moment, something unreadable flickered across her face. "Someone who's done enough." Hale didn't miss the edge in her tone, the weight of something unsaid. He wanted to push further, but a master sergeant shouted for him across the hangar. Reluctantly, Hale backed away, though his mind churned. That patch wasn't a mistake, and she wasn't just another tech. Over the next few weeks, he couldn't stop watching her. Reyes kept her routine simple, working long hours on the helicopters, often staying later than anyone else, her uniform smudged with oil and dust. She never joined the others at the mess hall, never laughed or joked around, never sought company. She was a ghost among them, and yet she handled the aircraft with such care it bordered on reverence. Then came the ambush. Hale's unit was tasked with escorting a convoy through a canyon notorious for insurgent activity. The terrain was tight, the kind that forced Apaches to fly low and slow. Everyone knew it was risky. Reyes had prepped his bird herself that morning, double-checking the ammo feed and giving him a look that lingered longer than usual. The convoy rolled out at dusk. For the first 30 minutes, everything was quiet, too quiet. The first RPG streaked out of the rocks and struck a Humvee near the rear. The explosion lit the canyon walls, and gunfire erupted from multiple positions. Hale cursed, banking the Apache hard, chain gun spitting fire. The air filled with smoke and tracers. His wingman took a hit and went down hard, crashing into the canyon floor. "Mayday! Mayday!" Hale shouted into comms. "Bird down. Grid 259er." The fight raged on, the convoy pinned from both sides. Hale's ammo counter blinked. He was burning through rounds faster than expected. Then the chain gun jammed. "Damn it, not now." Hale slammed the console, trying to cycle the weapon, but the feed was locked. He had rockets left, but the angles were tight, and civilians might be in the line. He needed that chain gun. He dove low, drawing fire to buy the convoy a chance. Just as he prepared for the worst, a voice cut through comms, a female voice, calm and precise. "Captain Hale, switch to backup cycle. Override 3, code Delta 7. His blood went cold. That wasn't one of his crew. "Who the hell is this?" he demanded, still maneuvering under fire. "Do it, now." He hesitated only a second before following the instruction. To his shock, the gun cycled, clearing the jam instantly. The weapon roared back to life, spewing fire into the canyon. "Target the ridgeline, 2 o'clock, the voice commanded. "Secondary nest at 4 o'clock. Fire now." Hale obeyed, almost against his own instincts. The rounds chewed through the rocks, silencing the ambush positions one by one. Within minutes, the canyon fell quiet except for the crackle of burning vehicles. The convoy limped forward, battered but intact, breathing hard. Hale switched comms. "Who are you?" Static. No answer. When they returned to base, Reyes was already there, standing beside his bird. Her uniform was spotless now, hair tied back neatly, expression unreadable. Hale jumped down from the cockpit, still wired from combat. "That was you," he accused. Reyes didn't flinch. "You'd be dead if it wasn't." "Where the hell were you transmitting from?" She glanced at the helicopter. "Let's just say I know these machines better than anyone else." Hale stared at her, anger and confusion warring inside him. "You don't just know override codes like that. That's classified." "That's not something you should ask about," she finished sharply. "Not if you want to sleep at night." He opened his mouth to argue, but the look in her eyes stopped him cold. There was something there, something that spoke of nights spent in the dark, missions no one would ever acknowledge, choices that left scars deeper than any wound. For the first time, Hale saw her not as a quiet tech or even as a mystery, but as a soldier who carried too much. Over the next days, the rumors spread. Some swore she'd once been a gunner on an Apache herself, others whispered she was part of a shadow program training pilots in secret. None of it could be proven. Reyes kept working, silent as ever, but every time Hale walked into the hangar, he found his eyes drawn to the patch on her sleeve, the one that shouldn't exist. One night, long after most had gone to sleep, he found her sitting alone beside the Apache she maintained, the hangar lights casting long shadows. She was staring at the gun as if it were both a burden and a friend. "You saved my life," Hale said softly, approaching. She didn't look at him. "I saved the mission. You could have let me crash and no one would have ever known. Why risk it?" Finally, she turned, her eyes dark but steady. "Because I've lost too many already." "And because you noticed the patch." Hale waited, sensing she was on the edge of saying more. "I was in before," she admitted at last, her voice low. "Not officially, not in any way that leaves records. We were inserted when Apaches couldn't fly, when crews were lost, when someone had to finish what others couldn't. We didn't wear names, only patches, and when hitting the broken bar they buried us in paperwork. I took the only place they'd let me stay close to, the hangar." Her hand brushed the chain gun lightly, almost a caress. "This way, I keep them flying. I make sure no one else has to go down with a jammed feet." Hale felt the weight of her words. She wasn't here by accident. She was here because she couldn't leave, because the machine was her way of holding on to everything she'd lost. He nodded slowly. "Then I'm damn glad you're here." For the first time since he'd met her, Reyes almost smiled. The Apache loomed above them, silent and watchful, as if keeping their secret. And though Hale never spoke of the patch again, he carried the memory of that night into every mission afterward, and knowing that somewhere in the shadows of the hangar, a ghost was still watching, still guarding, still fighting in her own way.